Yeah, whole prof here. And we got Miss Paisley Marie. You'll have to excuse me if my shirt is dusty as. I went spelunking and finally pulled out, that is a new unbuilt Prusa i3 Mark III's. And you might be able to tell by the dusting of dust that it is aged. That was supposed to be a COVID project. Yeah. I wonder if that filament's still good. It's still sealed, but yeah. One can't have too many hobbies. Or not enough, and just not enough time. We just did a video on the subcompact Milwaukees here. I was astonished by how light and small, especially the drill is. But this guy is finally someone has made an impact to compare to the Snap-on 7.2 volt. And in some dimensions, it's actually smaller. I don't know, it doesn't have a toggle trigger, but for somebody looking for just small, compact, lightweight, literally half the weight of the normal M12 fuel stuff. So check out that video. Tape measures next? Maybe that'll be relatively quick. I wasn't going to go through this container of the bits, but I might now. Let's just say that clip is cheaper than ever. Look at that. Shit's falling out already. Here, these. There. The nut drivers. Literally falling out. So, as much as these are now easier to get out than their old design, and apparently they're designed to fit pack out. Plastic feels thinner and cheaper. And I'm sure if I just Maraca. So I'm just going to toss this. Hey, Gertrude. Why are you not sitting on your cat bed here? Is it because it's all terrain and I pulled it off? Here. Let's sit right next to me. Yeah? Let's see how bad this is. By the way, I dropped it from a couple of inches. And there's a bunch of, like, these don't hold. That was wishful thinking for a lot of these. Even this Torx bit is loose. What's really weird is, and I've run into this with some of the DeWalt ones, where certain ones these will be super loose and fly out just like that. And then other ones you can't actually get fully in because they didn't leave enough room in the plastic. Test. Oh, Paisley Marie. Oh, I showed your fangs. Yeah. How's Paisley Marie? Huh? Gotta put away the 16-bit pen. This is what I've been rocking at work. I don't know, side click with a Uniball cellulose UMR 83. Loving it. That is a go-to pen configuration for me. So let's get these guys out of the way. I think the drill is more responsive than the impact, to be truthful. We'll have to see. They really do feel like they got some beans to them. Drill's half as fast as the impact. Theoretically. More torque? Question mark? Alright. No, not the Knipex. We kind of already covered these. They're just bits. Recommended one. I needed some T25s and realized I never had any T15s. What we do have, though, is the stud. Etiquette. Yeah? Keton? Keton, keton? Yeah? What are you doing? Huh? Keton, keton? You want to sit here? You know, across my legs for you. Come here. Come here. Alright. So I didn't go upstairs and get my 25 foot. But I still have a 25 foot version. This is Milwaukee's first tape measure. I mean, I don't know if this one is their first one. It's from their first line, though. I love these. Still do like them. It has the magnet. That is one thing that I feel like is missing from the stud. Though I will say, as useful as this magnet has been, it has been just as annoying. So I can kind of see why they got rid of it. This is me bumping the tripod. My bad. So here is, I don't know what these were necessarily called, but these were when they came out with their, in my opinion, when they came out with their original line of tape measures, which is this one. I preferred the 16 foot. This is a 5. I happen to have the meter version because in cable and not cable, but like not like cable TV, but like in cable lengths and PC oriented world, having the metric on there can be quite useful for that sort of stuff. Just easy conversion, easy eyeballing, that sort of stuff. This one, because of that, did not see as much use as the just standard one, right? So your 16 foot. This is not the new stud. This is the previous stud. And then they did sell it also in the meter and the feet. So I'm very happy that I picked this up, because these aren't, I don't know if these are not made anymore, but they're at least, they were not updated to the Gen 2 stud. Back when I picked up this was, in my opinion, by far, heads and tails above the competition, the best tape measure. This was also back when, and Milwaukee generally does this, where when they enter a market, they crush it. Like as in, they put out not the cheapest product, it depends. We were talking about screwdrivers in a previous video on how I really think they entered that market just to have a screwdriver. They were not heads and tails above the rest. I think this is a truly competitive screwdriver, personally. Their new design that's completely made in the USA. And I'm just saying, yes, it's not because it's completely made in the USA, but they had to redesign it because they were making them completely in the US. And the new design they chose, Bellissimo. And this one doesn't even have all the features of it. It has most of them, because these are their demolition ones. That'll be a future video. But when this came out, I basically told everybody, if you want a good tape measure, one that's going to last you a heckin' long time, buy that one. And that was the only one available. Then within, I would say, 2 years, that wasn't the only one. And I had to tell them, because this was 25 bucks, right? I had to tell people, yep, I really do recommend the Milwaukee tape measure. But when you go and buy them, there's going to be a $25 one and a $15 one. This is not that. Why do I have this? Because this is all previous job of on-site work would spring for. And since they were buying my tools, and ideally, you can see even got a chunk out of it there from something. Because that's what they would pay for, that's what I would get. And I think it really locked in there for some reason. Not on the bottom. This tape is nothing special. It's very hard to hold with your finger because it doesn't have this cutout where these studs do as well. This was, I think this is technically their compact, I wanna say, but at the time this was their only one that was a 16-foot. Like when I got this 4 or 5 years ago, they had stopped making this one, which was the first gen good one, and they had not yet come out with the stud. So this was what was available, and it was in, like, you can tell this clip back here is like, this is cheap garbage, maybe a little bit better than, I shouldn't say cheap garbage, it's a fine tape measure, but compared to this, right, it has, yes, some rubber, but you can even tell that the plastic on it, that is worse plastic than this plastic here. You can tell this is probably just ABS, whereas this is, you know, that nylon reinforced stuff. I don't know that for sure, but it definitely, you know, first glance, first feel, this feels like a much, there's more texture to it, but it's a cheaper, like I can flex the casing if I push it right there. But this was all available when I was doing my on-site work, and also like the only thing in the price range that they were willing to pay for. I still loved these. I had 2 of the straight 16-footers, and later on, they like to get these in the market, to get them. This is while I was working at Home Depot. Actually, they made these. There was a combo deal where you get not the 15, just the standard 16-foot, and a 25-foot for like the normal price of $25. So you get the smaller rule for the price of one of them, basically. And I did that. It was like a Black Friday deal or a, you know, I don't know, Father's Day or whatever when I was working there, right? And that's how I ended up with a second 16-footer, normal 16-footer, and the 25-footer. Now I prefer the 16-foot size because of how it fits in the hand, right? And but sometimes you do need more than this 16-foot. Like this room that I am in right now is longer than 16 feet, and sometimes you do need to measure that. The other thing is often the standout distance of the 16-footer is going to be worse than the 25. Standout meaning how far the tape sticks out without boink. And this one's in decent condition because I really only went to go grab this one. It was in my office, sort of like my on-site tech bag, but I wasn't using that regularly. Like it was sort of just upstairs in my office, bringing it into work when I needed it every now and then, or friends of family, you know, etc. needed help. I'd have like sort of like a base set of tools altogether I could just grab and go. It also helped to have it upstairs because I at least have somewhat competent tools. Now then, that got transformed into like an updated one into my work bag. At some point, I'll make videos on that. But this went in there. So unless I needed the metric side of this, it didn't get used. However, I killed one of the 16 feet, just wore it out completely, rubber worn off. And the second standard, just 16-foot one. Basically, if you're under, especially under a 2x4, so 4 inches and under, tattered all, because I do a lot. I built a lot of 2x4 desks, and that sort of width, especially that 3.5 and in, was just destroyed. Which is why you'll see on some newer ones, on that inner distance, there's actually 6 inches and under reinforcing, because that is the most used distance, right? So they actually reinforce it on the stud. And that one is kind of like our garage tape measure, because it still does work as a tape measure, but you wouldn't want to use it for anything accurate that's like kind of within that 6-inch. I would even argue 8-inch, because I regularly use 2x8s because they perfectly fit on a cinder block, which is 8x8x16, or depending on what dimensions you want to go with there. But yes, I think 8x8x16. So, and I would, cinder blocks are cheap. They're literally like $1 a piece, or they were, you know. So I still have this guy. This guy stays in my upstairs, sort of my personal older set of tools that's always up in the office. You can even see it has seen its use, like, but it generally only gets pulled out when doing like cable runs and doing like PC fan and like stuff where you need the metric side of this, because otherwise why would you grab the metric one? Get the standard one, that, but if you notice, I bought a metric one, and that was part of the reason why I needed something. I hate not having this is like one of the best things ever, having that in there for your fingers, so it doesn't get, watch, when it retracts, it doesn't get thwacked. You don't even have to worry about it. So I don't even think about it. The issue is then I go to use this thing that doesn't have that spot for your fingy to be here, and then you get schwucked. This one does have a little bit of a raise above, but not much above the tape. It's functional. I love having the stuff on the bottom side, but I needed something relatively reliable and having metric when I was doing work stuff regular. I didn't, like I said, very rarely do I go over 25 feet, and at that point I don't see. I just did it again to myself, and it friggin' hurts. I actually at one point got like blood blisters from some of these going out at longer distances. This one's fine. I think, like I said, I think this is the Milwaukee Compact. Personally, spend one of these, spend a bit more. I've had these since they launched and they came out. Really should have probably replaced them a couple years sooner. But there wasn't a replacement for the higher end, like the original tape, right? There just wasn't a replacement for those. And maybe you guys can correct me if you're like, no, they had a model between the original one and the Gen 1 stud. They definitely did. I know the exact model. Well, hit me up, throw it down in the comments, prove me wrong. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but this was good enough at the time, and I did need that metric for doing like cable runs, PC fans, even case dimensions, because most of that is done in millimeters. Right, so that's where you see almost all of this on this guy. All the wear was in from 8 inches once again or less. There's a literal mark at 8 inches where it's like, you know, so I can tell you that was probably locked in wherever that lock is, like that, for most of its life. But I picked up the studs, these guys, and they were finally available in 16 foot. There might be an older video or one that's not even out yet on these. But these are effectively the successor. Like if I remove the standard 16 foot, and here you go, 5 meter, 16 foot, 5 meter, 16 foot. The stud is effectively you can see from the clip on the back, they went to a single screw instead of this whole clumpy mechanism. It's got the cutout for your finger, right? Except this, instead of being this metal loop here, is like this more rubberized plastic. You know what's under there though? And a lot of people are like, oh, it's plastic, it's gonna break. No, there's actually a metal loop. I don't know if you could see that in there. There's actually a metal loop that is built around. So this isn't just gonna snap off or anything like that. What it is, they took this and they covered it in rubber effectively, which is great. There is a little bit less room on specifically the 5 meter, 16 foot. If you're gloving it, like if you're wearing gloves, they also got a heck of a lot fatter, which I don't necessarily mind, but I was so used to this, like this locks in on the pinky here, just like this, and, you know, manipulating it, etc. Like I said, I wore out a 16 foot and wore out another one under, 8 inches and less. The original one looks just destroyed. That one actually got hooked. The other one, like I said, became the garage tape measure because it'll live out there. And now, because of this guy, the original one, 25 foot, will become the garage one. You know, and that one's actually still in good condition because the only time I use a 25 foot is when a 16 won't make it. There is also a 35 version of this, and maybe I eventually picked that up, but you got to be doing stuff over 25 foot on the regular or nearing 25 foot, because that's another thing, is though these will do 16 feet, I would argue over 12 it gets funky on any tape measure. You know, like when you extend it too far, it just starts getting, this is like a nice, like, I'm not sure if it's nylon, but it feels like almost like a cloth. Okay, we're beyond 8 foot or 9 foot, 10 foot standout is where you're at. But yeah, usually if I'm pushing past that 12 foot on a 16 foot on the regular, I'm probably going to go and grab a 25 foot. It's just usually past a certain point, they just get really, really grumpy, right? But finally, Milwaukee made these. They made the stud versions. I picked them up because the thing is, I wanted this in the smaller 16 foot because that is what I prefer to use. And I needed a standard and a metric. And like I said, it still exists. Now, I actually prefer this much bigger sort of like, I don't even know what you want to call that. Like, it's got things sticking out. Like, you can hook it on any side from any direction. It's even got a little lip on this one, so it bites a little bit. And it's got the magnet. And maybe that's just because I'm used to that sort of end on there. So I was a little bit disappointed when the new studs went to, there really isn't much on the side to grab, and maybe people were actually running into more issues with that hooking because I've had it hook things it wasn't supposed to. But it does have bottom and top, and the reason why top's important is because you actually have all the tape on the bottom. And there you can see architectural scale as well. Right there. So that's mapped out, and that's specifically on the bottom. And this is like not that fabric. Oh, so you can see there's paint. Like I said, I've been using this guy. I haven't had as much time with the current job to do as many projects, but as you know, we have been doing projects around here, and you know, this one is the main one I grab. I have this one on the tool cart, my toolbox as well. Looking at this one might have actually been used more. It's definitely more gray colored. But, and you're like, why do you need two? Sometimes we're doing stuff and it's easier just to have one person each having one. And, you know, still, even though it's got metric on it, it's still fully viable to do the feet markings, you know. And we got the architectural scale in meters on here, I think. 15 meters? Doesn't seem right. Maybe. 1 meter, 2 meter, 3 meter, 4 meter. Oh, that's the, okay, so that's the transfer drawings. So that, you know, that's on here, which, yeah, it's also on this guy. I think this one actually calls it out more. And so I picked these up finally. And I hadn't picked up the 25 because I was like, hey, if I like these, actually what I did is I bought the 16 foot first. And then I was like, hey, if I like this, if this is effectively what this is, but the modern one, I will buy this one. Because this one you could pick up in a store. Like, you could walk into any Home Depot and get this. This guy, you had to order in. And any discounts that you got on this, you don't get on this one because less people buy this one. I'm glad Milwaukee makes it, though, because there are enough things that I need to measure that it benefits me to have the metric one. Obviously, as this one still exists in fairly good condition, I don't use it nearly as much. But
I do use it enough to have one on hand. And like I said, the other thing is because it's the same as this, you know, if we're both if you know, I'm cutting down wood or we're marking up 2x4s, we can both have the same tape measure. Or I can sometimes go get 25 because that'll work for it too. But you know, I can just be like, here, toss it over to him, grab it, and you go. If anybody knows, okay, because these still have, as does this compact, still has the loop for the wrist strap for the tape measure. I'm kind of interested in rocking it old school, right? Where do you even get? I remember those being like real leather at one point, maybe rubber, you know, then plastic, then maybe some like cheap nylon, if that. They keep the retention, but where do you find like the thing to get the wrist strap to put it on here? If anybody has suggestions on like where to find like a nice one, like a leather one, or you know, whatever's considered nice now, I can't find any that are not just like cheap garbage on Amazon. The you know, and you know, that aren't cheap. I'm just interested that they brought that back, because if you look, it was specifically taken off of, or wasn't at least initially put on, and they wouldn't put it back unless people were asking for it. That's a new thing to do. Feeling on this though, this is a much squishier rubber. I don't know if that wore more or worse or whatever. Compared to this is a much more. It's still like power tool rubber, but this is squishier than this is. This also seems to be a lit more like, rather than this seems like be like an over mold. It's still molded onto the plastic because it's still seamless and flush. This seems to be more of an over mold, whereas this seems to be much closer to like a power tool where it's molded like you cannot feel that seam there. Really nicely done. I'm glad you'll be seeing more and more auxiliary tools that are not power tools adopting the same, you know, like design and you know, like processes that you would from the power tool. This thing feels really nice. Like I said, you still got that reinforced metal, but it's a little bit squishier of a plastic here. This has a nice rubber grip there, which I noticed is not on the stud Gen 2. And for my hand, now, like, we've gone over sizing before. I don't have a massive hand. It's on the bigger side. I would say, from at least when we talk about mice, you know, computer mice. But I don't know. For me, the 16-foot, like, this easily fits in my hand, and it's just much nicer to manipulate for me. So I go with those. Well, after I bought these, I'm like, I'm going to buy the 25-foot, and I just didn't for a long time. And I don't know if I'm glad I didn't or not, because by the time I go to buy the 25-foot stud, it no longer exists. And the stud Gen 2 is, do we want to say cat's pajamas? That's a hip common terminology right now, right? Nowadays. Well, it's basically a thing. Oh, also, I should mention, these actually had, these original Gen 1s had a lifetime warranty. I was considering sending mine in. Don't know what happened to the original one that was like completely just utterly destroyed. Then we have the other one that but basically 8 inches in it is pretty thrashed, but I couldn't find, because that one I know is from that the 16-foot / 25-foot combo deal. I bought that in person with cash, and as much as I don't even think they had self-checkout back then, so it wouldn't have made me sign in or attach anything or, you know, like that sort of stuff, so I couldn't find the receipt. This one, because I had to order it online, I do have the receipt for, but of course, this is the one that you can see by the tape. This thing is still in like pretty immaculate condition. There's like wear on the outer, but like the tape, because I wasn't doing, you know, every godforsaken thing under the sun with it, it's actually in pretty good condition, so I don't need the warranty this. But supposedly, actually had a lifetime guarantee on it, which is surprising, to say the least. Yes, so the stud, Gen 2 stud. So I'm kind of happy I upgraded, I think. Or I waited, because the here's another thing. The Gen 2 stud didn't happen for the 16-foot, as far as I'm aware. Kind of already mentioned that. They call the listing on Home Depot the Gen 2, but it is not the Gen 2. It is actually the Gen 1. They do have what they again claim. Here, I should just show you guys. Derp, derp, derp. Okay, so they have what they claim to be the Gen 2 stud up here, 16-foot reach. This is specifically the metric one, right? That's the Gen 1 stud. You can see this is the Gen 2 stud. It's much more bulbous. Also down here, this metric, I didn't realize I thought they might, but I didn't, I didn't have a need for it. They definitely have a metric that is a 25-foot. I say 26-foot, 8 meters. I earned these too. These little keychain ones. Those are great. Go pick one up. Toss it on your lunchbox or your bag for work, etc. But yeah, so those ones that say they're the Gen 2 stud, they're not. There looks like to be a metric 10 meter 35-foot Gen 2 stud. I don't know if there's a 35-foot. I don't know if there's a metric 25-foot. Let's take a look here. Click on that. It's thinking. It's thinking. It's thinking. It's thinking. It should be this if it exists. Oh, that's working great, isn't it? It was grayed out when I clicked it. Oh god, now we've made it mad. Either way, there might be some basically Gen 2 only exists in 25 and 35 foot, and as far as I can tell, the Gen 1 is only still available in the metric variants, not the this guy. This was available in a Gen 1 and 25 foot as well. Weird. Maybe they don't sell that many 16 foots in these higher end tapes, because these are definitely aimed at like contractor grade. If we go back to how long I had, especially my original one of these, we're talking better part, I think, of 10 years. I think I might have even saved the Milwaukee tool tape measure. Next generation of tape measures. Nope, that's the stud. So that was in 2024. It was only end of 2024. I don't know. Oh no, this is a new stud. So that's the second gen stud. They don't call it the stud 2 in the press release. They probably should. I know I searched this up at some point. 2014? Yeah, there's somebody actually doing, I thought it might have been 2014. They're unboxing. Here you go. So it's even prior to that. They're unboxing in 2014 that double pack that I got. Free 16 foot. There you go. See? So that is what I was talking about. So, this guy was announced in September of 2024. Lately, Milwaukee, they announced stuff at Pipeline, their own like sort of announcement event, kind of like CES or Computex, but it's just their trade show. It's kind of like when NVIDIA does their own thing for those of us that do computer components. And just because it's announced there doesn't mean it's going to come out right then. Often they're announcing, I swear lately they're almost as bad as Asus, where it's like, if it comes out within a year, you're doing pretty good, right? So this is the Gen 2 stud, only available in 25 or 35 or the equivalent metric sizes. This is definitely a softer rubber than this. This is a harder rubber than that's really freaking grippy. Grippier than that too, but that might be because it's textured. You know, if they textured it more. This comparatively feels like butts. Also, with how that's cut out down there, you can tell that that's like a door somehow. You know, like that's an insert. You can see right there. There's some harder plastic on the front there. Like this has a lot of the same like design influences on the compact, so you can tell that what they did, and I agree with this method, is you design the premium one, and you know like this has the harder plastic front to kind of dampen that. This has that as well. This has that as well, except it's fancy yellow. There you go. That's how easy it is to get that out. The clip is interesting. I think that's probably an improvement. It's less metal. Also, the pieces here, like the little pieces that reinforce it that are screwed in right there, actually go down into the plastic body, it looks like, which is going to give you better leverage. That screw looks cheaper and chintzier, but like that's still a solid clip. And you don't, with the screw up here, you don't have to get the belt over top of it. But this basically acted as this ridge to retain it. That same sort of thing is here, right? That sort of thing is here on this one too, with that screw that's there. And then there's like a bump that locks the thing in. So even though they moved the screw to change where the leverage point was, and so you're not running over the screw, maybe this was loosening on them because the belt or whatever your metal clip you're clipping it onto that's in your work belt is there. Maybe it was unscrewing the screw. And with how this is designed, you're never getting up past that black line there, like that black and white line. Like it's not getting up to that screw. This thing is bigger and chonkier. What they did do is this guy has very flat sides on it. Like it is wide, stonky, and chonky. Smoothest retraction and harshest job site. I don't know. I did pick up the one with the engineer's scale. They actually sell ones with and without now. And there you go. Or architectural scale. There you go. You can get ones with and without it. I thought might as well. I don't know if both versions come with the high vis. It may only be the architectural one with that. You saw some of the options on there. They were only really selling on Home Depot the 25 foot and the 25 and 35 and their equivalent metrics. They didn't have like a lot of the options that when were announced. If I would have bought it sooner, like this has been in my cart a while because I was kind of making a big order up. It might have shown up there. There might have been more options earlier on. So here's a big thing too when they went with the high vis. This has more of a classic yellow on it. This ruler is more of that like high vis lime green color, you know, like as indicated by this front nubbin there. So material feels the same or very similar. I'm sure they changed something. Otherwise, why do that? Maybe this sort of lime green is more popular. I do think that this lock is cheaper. It's just plastic with a hole in it that goes through. Like this is a much cheesier lock than this nice one here with this nice rubber guy molded on there. I like the flusher more flush. See this one also, it's kind of protected by this ridge here. You really gotta put your hand over this to hit it. Whereas this guy, there's a little bit of a ridge or a little forehead on that guy, right? And it's like you can kind of get, I don't know if you see that, my thumb fits perfectly in there. So if you like that, no problem. I like that switch button, whatever you want to call it, better, and the sort of angling there. This guy, they've gotten rid of that forehead, and they've making this guy stick out way more. I don't know if that's to benefit people wearing gloves more, to have this bigger, taller thing. That'd be my guess. Like I said, I often, because I'm more of a home gamer or whatever, unless I'm doing a repetitive task, I'm probably not wearing gloves. So most of the times when I go and grab this, I'm not wearing, you know, like work gloves. I'm not saying that I don't. It's just more common to not be, like I might grab this, measure something, then go grab the gloves, sort of thing. So the one thing I will say though is the locking mechanism on this is like more of a progressive, like gosh, it's like a snap on there. Like it's tightening, it's got it. Whereas this guy is kind of like a constant, like it's always tight and it just goes a little bit tighter. Whereas this is like a snap. Like it's like do snap. Like you really got to give it to get that one, you know. Whereas this guy, less force required, since there's like, it'll go back, and then it's like just before it locks down. Let's figure out on this older guy. See, there's just much less throw. I'm a simple guy, you know. This guy's much thinner too. I'm sure that's because it has a much thinner tape. And we've progressed. Yeah, look at that. This is baby tape. This is big boy tape. There you go. So, quite a bit. And I bet you it's dished way more. Yeah. You know, at the time, like I said, I liked having yellow on top, white on bottom, like different colors. Like I really, I mean, maybe it's also because I'm really used to this one. You know, I've used it for however many years. I have definitely not put the same amount of hours into the Gen 1 stud, which, like, it's about as close as one could get to the first gen of the Milwaukee. And like I said, they improved it by like double layering the coating for the 6 inches and in. Same thing here. You can see it on the top of this stud Gen 2. There's actually a second layer of the coating. there. You know, then they make electricians ones I think that have the magnet still on them, but you can't get the stud, which is their highest end, with the magnetic, which is kind of a bummer. I kind of wish that they could do, you know, like hey, if you can make an engineer's scale and a non-engineer's scale one, you can probably make one with and without the magnet, you know. I can see why people, because these came in only this big thing. Like, I have gotten it caught on the sides before, and these are like, look at that. You can. It was both useful and detrimental to have. Same thing with the magnet. So I'm guessing they had more complaints than they had benefits, or they're like, hey, if you're somebody that prefers using, we have less people who prefer using the giant wing one or the magnet one, that if that's something that you want, we have versions for you. But our like more professional one, or most professional one, we do not. I will say, the way that this comes out, that is so smooth. Even compared to the stud Gen 1. Like, I don't know what they tweaked between these two, but that feels downright amazing. I don't know if I like this more like rounded bulbous size. It kind of reminds me of the DeWalt Atomic ones. But if I recall, the DeWalt ones, the DeWalt follow-ups were a follow-up to this guy. They started putting out very similarly looking tape measures after this guy came out. And maybe you guys can correct me on my history there. But, you know, like, this kind of started out a trend of like looks, and DeWalt, instead of having it this way, had it like this. Then Craftsman, when Stanley Black & Decker, which DeWalt is a part of, brought Craftsman back, they basically knocked off the design of Milwaukee, and then also put it kind of at like the angle that DeWalt, I don't remember which way, but the way that they had it. And it was basically just a DeWalt in a Craftsman shell that looks like a Milwaukee. And if you're ever wondered, if you like, I've shown pictures on social media about how much, like, if you're not paying attention early on in Craftsman's like recreation of their new tools, you could very easily buy a Craftsman tool when you're intending to buy a Milwaukee. And it was actually bad enough, and I don't remember how that lawsuit came out, but Milwaukee sued the new Craftsman for trade dress infringement because they were making it like, I sent a picture of like screwdrivers and nut drivers on a thing, and I'm like, which one's the Milwaukee and which one's the Craftsman? Like, hey, I want a Milwaukee Phillips too. And nope. Like, a large amount of people, they're like, oh, isn't that all Milwaukee? Like, and it's weird because Craftsman had their own like ID. Their power tools were always black, not red, black. But then their newer stuff has been like, oof, it's like the design of the accents of the rubber is different compared to many of the Milwaukees. And like I said, this design, like that with sort of rubber on top, rubber on bottom, reminds me much more of the DeWalt Atomic line. I think it was Atomic line or something like that. And I want to say that line first started like back after these guys came out. But this like more rounded body shell like that, and then this sort of rubber top, rubber bottom, reminds me more of that. So like I said, I needed a 25-foot. I just didn't order the stud 1 in time. Ended up with a stud 2. Not the worst thing ever because they improved it. I kind of, you know me, I like my high vis, and we can test out. Do I prefer this high vis green? It reflects more light, and that's the biggest thing. This almost looks yellow right now to you, but then when you know it isn't yellow, how you know it isn't yellow is you get an actual yellow tape rule out. That's yellow. And you want to see what's really yellow? If you go to the older one. That's... So, there you go. Questions, comments, throw them down below. I know I didn't use the dang thing. Was just showing it off and comparing it to the previous versions that I have. And if anybody has some suggestions on the little like wrist straps, lanyards, etc., that tape measures used to all come with back in my day, hit me up down below. Let me know if there's anything you want me to test with this. I mean, it's a tape measure. I don't know. Came up with these, and the closest thing is the current stud line from Milwaukee. Peace.